A question comes to mind, Giselle. I mean, in the past 3 years or so, what have you discovered about yourself thanks to Zar? Very valuable lessons here. So I'm sure that there's something in there.
I think, okay, so with crowdfunding, there are four main types of crowdfunding. The two that ZAR offers, which is reward-based and donation-based. And then there are another two, which are equity and lending. Then there are other smaller ones, but these are the four main ones. And a lot of people, when they hear crowdfunding, they primarily think equity. A lot of people also think that Kickstarter deals in equity because of the amounts that it raises, because it tends to raise rather large amounts. But it doesn't. Kickstarter is purely reward-based.
Okay.
Basically, equity and lending is when investors get involved. So it is literally an investment. It's a financial transaction, but you're literally moving into the field of financial services.
Okay.
So, you've got people who become part of your project. Whereas with reward-based crowdfunding, the transaction, or rather the relationship, sort of stops once the transaction is done. So people support your project, yes, obviously with their money, but then they don't have a say in how you...
There's no shareholding.
No, exactly. There's no shareholding. And to go back to the question, I realized that equity is not really something that I value too much. I much prefer the community aspect that reward-based crowdfunding deals in. And I think it's because very often we're dealing with individuals and with entrepreneurs and with startups and with people who are sort of at a point in their journey where they really are looking for community, and they're looking, yes, they're looking for funds, but they're not just going to a bank or going to an equity and, looking for investors for the big amounts. They're literally looking towards people like them, towards their peers, as it were. And I think there's a lot of value in that, a bit of an emotional value as well, because you see that these people are the ones who very often work so hard at the campaign because they know that, they need to kind of put in that bit more effort, because they're not going to be on Forbes anytime soon. They're not going to be on, I don't know, entrepreneur.com, maybe in the future, but they're still at the initial stage of their journey. So I think the fact that I get to help with that, it's important to me, and I feel quite privileged, to be part of that journey. I mean, even if it's not a business, even if it's sort of a theatre project, sometimes even more when it's not a business project, because very often sort of people in the arts are the ones who really know what it's like to, put in the long hours and, the rehearsals and all that. So when you can sort of help these projects see the light of day, there's something very satisfying about it.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, as I made note before, I mean, it's like starting up a secondary company or something that you already have. So that must be extra hard. And you're at a point where you have to work so hard to make your business successful. But you're at a point as well that you need some extra funds or a bigger capital to go to the next level.
Yes.
And you know that unless you raise that capital, it's very difficult for you to go into the next level. It can be a prototype that you're working on. You need the technology, you need the people. Because ultimately, if you're getting support from professionals, for example, not everyone is willing to do that voluntarily.
Yes.
Yeah, you might need to pay or pay for the equipment. So you're at a point in your journey where it's a make or break kind of situation. So at the same time, you're trying to build your brand, build the product, build the business, build the connections. At the same time, you're trying to build funds. So,
Exactly.
but it's ironic in a way. I'm finding this a little bit not contradicting, but a little bit ironic as well, in the sense that in order to do the crowdfunding event, you sort of have to ditch whatever you're doing, focus on that, and get the lessons from the crowdfunding initiative, and then go back to the drawing board.
In a
It's
way,
like you have to pinch yourself in a way.
yes, you need to kind of see it as a project within a project, I
Yeah.
suppose. But yes, it's again, I think it very much depends on where you are in the journey and how you're going to use crowdfunding. Because, for example, some people might use it as a pilot project, again, to get the market validation, see what the crowd thinks about the product or their service. Whereas some people might use it as a pre-sales tool. So, for example, yes, you might already have the product, but you're not a wholesaler. You're not going to go to retail stores and say, "Will you stock this for me?" You're kind of doing it by yourself in a way, and you're using a crowdfunding platform as your medium. Again, very often this is done typically by entrepreneurs, or startups, very much used, for example, in the tech industry, or as I mentioned before, sort of juicers that cost $250 and it's fine. So there are different ways on how you can use crowdfunding. So again, I think it very much depends on what your aim is. And even if, for example, you're using it, as I said, for example, for a culture project, some creative project, typically that is in a way a pre-sales tool, because very often you're raising the funds in order to put on a show, put on a concert. So and typically the rewards are tickets to the show.
Yes,
so it's like, you're basically selling the tickets beforehand. Very often, but this happens long before the show is happening. And then this is where I tell people, try and be really bold with the rewards. Don't just offer tickets, but can you invite people to a launch party? Can you literally have them on stage? Can they perhaps be part of the show? Something a bit out there. And again, we're not saying that 100 people are going to benefit, because then there's also the really, I would say, nice element of having exclusive rewards. So you can say, you can be part of the show, only available for 2 people.
Okay.
So only 2 people. Yes, obviously they're going to pay a higher amount.
But yes, exclusivity, it makes it enticing.
Exactly, So imagine, I don't know, you're a band, and literally have 2 people who get to be on stage with you, literally not just witnessing the show from the crowd, but either from the side or, I don't know, this is sort of just coming to mind now, but you might set up some kind of really cool seating area for them. You mention them,
the VIP kind of feeling.
Exactly, or if you're doing a theatre project or perhaps a film, they actually get a walk-on role, I mean, I don't want to give them a line, it depends, and then obviously it's up to the person. But still, it's like I get to actually walk on stage. For some people, they might never have the opportunity to do that.
For sure.
So when people are really bold with their rewards, they can really sort of make a very, very successful campaign and have people even talk about it, more than sort of the regular coffee mug reward, as we tend to call it. So I think it's just where you are basically in the line of your journey. And actually, just another little anecdote and storytelling.